Good evening. Welcome to Rehab Talk Radio. I'm Kovac, and hanging with always is my co-host Mike. Mike, what's going on?
No, not much.
All right, tonight we got a guest in the house. He's an introductory. What's the word for black lanyard that I'm looking for?
Introduction.
Introductionary. All right, what that you do? This guy is
induction phase.
Yes, induction. How did I forget that? Induction. Definitely no stranger to his background, to the Reno way of life. Been through it all. He's come here just like I said, just literally fresh off the boat coming in. His name Kenneth. Kenneth, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on the show, bud. Well, I'll ask you the same question I ask literally everybody that's been here. Like, what is it that has brought you here? Like, what's your story? What brought you through these doors to this pad?
Well, what brought me through these doors, living on the streets, thinking it was okay, and then the first thing that really got me was it's winter out here. Once that cold hit me, I can't live out on the streets anymore. I gotta find something better than this. So I decided to take good people's advice that were telling me, you should check out this, you should do this, you should do that, instead of kind of blowing them off and like, well, you're not out here. You're not living the life that I'm living with the choices. I'm having fun out here being how I am. But once that cold hit and I realized I could actually die out here, and that's what got me into like, all right, we need to change this. We need to get mentally better, physically better, and spiritually better. And so I just heard a voice tell me, you need to get right before you die. And so here I am.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, man. That I've been in places with moderate cold and absolute frozen temperatures. There's a certain like air cold to this place.
Yes, there is.
It's almost it feels deadly in a way. Like it's painful. It's very painful even in the daytime. There's a huge difference because I've been driving down the road and I'll see like there'll be like sunshine coming through like between buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get in the shadows after those buildings, and it's black ice, like on the road. Like a huge difference in just slight temperature here, and it absolutely below freezing. I don't blame you for coming indoors, and that's what it's like to moderate. Then definitely.
Yeah, I came off the streets as well, man. So I feel you on that. Like, even having a sleeping bag, bro, and just your feet, like feeling like they're gonna freeze to the point where they're gonna fall off or something, man. Like,
yeah.
So I feel you, bro. I've been there too.
The skin hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm from Fresno, California, so I'm not used to snow, let alone black ice. So feeling that on my skin and feeling like my skin was about to burn off, that definitely woke me up.
Okay, rewinding the clock. So where you said you came from Fresno?
Yes.
You ended up here. How did that come about? Like let's try and wind the clocks back as far as we can for your story to how you ended up here, A to Z. A to Z.
I was dating somebody, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name. I'm not going to. And then she had a brother, and we were working together at Jack in the Box. And then her and her brother ended up getting into a really, really bad yelling argument with their mom. And it was vicious, man. They were calling each other names. The mom was like, I'm going to take your son. My girlfriend had a son, not mine. She's like, I'm going to take your son from you. And then it got to the point where the brother and the mother were chest to chest, and he was kind of backing her into a wall, just screaming at her. All the while, the son is laying on the couch, right there, sleeping. I don't know how he stayed asleep throughout that entire yelling match.
And how old was your son?
Her son.
That's her son, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wish I could claim him to be
No, that's my bad.
He was a groovy dude, but 3 years old.
Oh, young youngster.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years old. Bright kid, very, very smart, very articulate. It was surprising. They're raising him right. And so the mother ended up kicking them out of the house. I had an apartment that I was staying in at the time, and I just told them, hey, you guys can move in with me until we get things figured out. Well, then the landlord there saw us, and instead of using the front door all the time, we were using my bedroom window just to start to come in and out, and she didn't like that, so we had to go. They knew I didn't know anybody out here. One person in Sparks. And so we came out, stayed at the Carson, or the Nugget first for a week, and then we ended up moving to the Carson Tahoe Hotel. It was like an extended stay kind of thing. Stayed there for about a month, and then noticed that trap that they have there where it's hard to pay your way out of there, and somehow, well, we ended up getting a $900 something bill, and we couldn't figure out how we were going to get enough money to pay that so we could actually get an apartment. And someone that was at the hotel ended up paying our entire bill so we could get out. And that was the only way that I actually ended up coming all the way out to Reno.
Wow, talk about a saint. That I understand what you're talking about with the whole trap, and it's almost hotel living, that if you're moved in a hotel, that the rent gets you so often. It's like coming around to Park Place and Boardwalk every week, and you barely have enough money to do anything, let alone pay rent. It's total trap. I love the way that you put that.
That's what it felt like, man. We stressed so much trying to figure out how we could get out of here. But I love talking with people. So while I was there, I got, really close with staff. I got close with some of the people who were there, and because I tried to remain positive throughout everything I do. Where it could be much worse, I kept dropping, God's name and the spiritual energies of the world and the people. How he just kept putting great people in my path to talk, and then before you know it, and it sucks to this day because I really wish we could have got the name of the person who paid for us to get out there so I could try to find them, say thank you, but they refused to drop the name, so that sucks. But one day, if I ever get to see them, I owe them a big thank you.
That's just a big pay it forward thing. What about, where'd you grow up, man? You said you grew up in Fresno?
I was born in New York.
Okay.
Lived there until I was 3.
I know, that's kind of a shocker, huh?
Yeah.
I don't like New York at all. It's too aggressive, too angry.
But you're a guy that loves San Francisco, as we were talking about earlier.
Love it. Because they're different. Not everybody in San Francisco is angry and aggressive. Some people are really happy. Like, you have your crowd that's super angry, but in New York, I'm going to tell everybody this, it is not as big as it seems on TV.
Seems like it's a monster huge place.
It is not. The sidewalks are extremely small. It's extremely condensed. It's like a whole bunch of angry sardines. That's how I could best describe it.
That's a way to put it. So the San Francisco life was more for you. So the people are more passive and commenting. You know what I'm talking about? Not as aggressive and harsh. We have our house head. He's from the East Coast, and he's just naturally got that like aggressive, hard kind of attitude to him. Mm-hmm. West Coast a little bit different. Yeah. So you go from New York to California.
Yes. When I was 3, we moved to Fresno, California, and lived out there until I was 30. And then my dad died, and that was a traumatic experience for me. He died right in front of me. He had just gotten out of the hospital. He ended up dying of COPD, but he had lung problems, kidney failure, terrible bone density, and he had his first heart attack, I believe, when I was 13, and just went downhill ever since. I say I sacrificed my 20s, but it wasn't a sacrifice. I'd do it all over again, because he couldn't walk on his own. He would run out of breath, he would get dizzy, and so I'd have to carry his air tanks as well as push him in a wheelchair to everywhere he had to go.
Right.
And so it was another trip to the hospital. He was there for about a week this time. And then the doctor said, your vitals are good. We're going to go ahead and send you home. So we brought him home. That night I said, Dad, I'm glad you're back. And I think Thor, or one of the Avengers movies, had just come out. And so I was excited to watch it with him. And he's laying on the bed, and I'm laying with my head on his chest. And I told him tomorrow we can watch it. He's like, I'm looking forward to it. He gave me a hug and a kiss. I went to my room. Couldn't really sleep, and tossing and turning. Then I hear my mother hours later start yelling, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. So I get out, and I just had a bad feeling about it. I didn't know what was to come, but it didn't feel good. So I go into the room, and my dad is on his knees, and he's praying, but he's also saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And then after that, yelled at my mom, call 911, because then my dad went from the prayer position to just started to get, limp and started to slide off to the floor. I tried to grab him, but he was a big dude, about 6'3", about 270, and I tried to lift him back up onto
Big
the
fella.
bed. Yeah, big guy.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of those genetics at all. Big guy. And I tried to pick him up and put him better. He was too big, so I could only put him about halfway back on. And he started to slide again, and by that point my mother finally came back and she was on the phone with the ambulance, and they said to lay him down and give him chest compressions. So I laid him down, and as I'm doing it, I kind of had a feeling this was it. Like, I didn't believe he was going to come back from it anyway. So I'm doing it with the thought of, you're really going to go this time. Like, we've had a couple of scares before in my life, but this one, maybe it's because he was saying he couldn't breathe, and then he just stopped. And then he's laying there, I'm looking down, I'm giving him chest compressions, and I'm seeing him gasp. I see him take his last breath, I see his eyes roll back, and then it was just nothing. And then it seemed like an eternity, man. And then the ambulance finally came and they took over, but he was dead already.
I've never met anybody that's gone through trying to revive somebody they know, let alone somebody they love. I couldn't imagine the adrenaline rush that's going through when you're trying to do that. I can't even imagine the thought process that could be. It's got to be a very unique experience, a very terrifying one.
Terrifying is the perfect word.
Terrifying.
It was like an outer body experience because I was calm about the whole thing, but it did affect me years later. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but I was just normal after, and then we went to the hospital and, they said he was dead. We come back to the house and my mother told me, let's not tell everybody in the family just yet. Let's just kind of sit on it. And so I went out into the garage where I go to smoke weed because that was my ritual at the time. And I'm smoking and I disobeyed my mom. I called my friend and I asked him, my buddy Taylor, I was like, hey man, Big Murph died. That's what was his nickname.
Okay.
And he was with his now wife and they were on their way to a movie date. He dropped her off and he came right over. And what he said, it calmed me. He was like, you want him back, don't you? I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, well, that's selfish. You can't have him back because if he came back, he wouldn't come back 100% healthy. He would come back just as sick and everything as he was. So if you truly love him, let him rest in peace. I heard that and it was
wow.
a tingling sensation, man, from the crown of my head. And it just went down my back. And I was just calm. I was okay with it. For what I thought in that, in that moment, I was okay with him being gone because I then knew we had to do funeral arrangements and somehow we were going to have to get him back to New York to bury him. So, and then I was worried about how my mom was how she was coping because she was in the house, calling family members and things like that. And my buddy Taylor was just there for me. It
seems like a surreal experience when it happens, and then the reality that follows through after. When it comes to that sort of thing, I was 17 when my mom passed away. I understand what the surrealness that comes after that of having to, like you said, that having to ship your dad to New York to. I mean, I don't want to put it that way, but I had to ship my mom to Carlin. It is the way it is, but just those kind of realities, what type of casket to pick out, what their last wishes were, things like that.
That process was once again very surreal because my mother held it together. She really held it together. When you say the casket, it kind of surprised me at the fact that because I cried, I ended up shedding tears sporadically throughout the entire process. Not as much as I thought I was, but the casket picking, that's when it really started to settle in that he's not coming back.
That's when it becomes surreal. Yeah.
And it hurt, man. It hurt because I couldn't believe I was going to bury my dad. I'm like, I'm not even 30 yet. And now that you're gone, I'm thinking of all these questions that I should have asked you. All the things that when you asked me to do things and I said no. I should have said yes if I knew I would have had such a limited amount of time, because I was very immature, and he could have, if I'd listened, he probably had a lot of lessons for me that would have kept me away from being homeless. But you know, when you're young and, well, when I was young and dumb, I thought I knew everything, and the fact that my dad was a pastor and he wasn't some rich man, I didn't pay very much attention to him. But he was filled with so many answers that I realize now every day that I pray, if I could just call and ask him, it would be a great stepping stone. So that's something I live with now still, is moments I don't feel like I was a good son. I know he loves me and everything like that, but I also know I could have been better.
I think the regret is definitely a part of grieving. We never feel like we said enough or loved enough. I know that with my mom, the only thing I could think of when she passed away was that I didn't say goodbye. You know, I said, I gotta go, I'm in a hurry, and I don't remember saying goodbye. So, I mean, I think that regret comes with it, and I don't think people should always, like, beat themselves up too much about it or think about it too much.
I'm learning.
You know.
Yeah, my grandpa went before I had the chance to say goodbye, and you know, I worked in the cannabis industry for 13 years, and so like, I pretty much allowed my career to like, you know, come before everything. You know what I mean? Even before my relationship with him. You know, and that's the man that raised me and reason why I am who I am today. You know what I mean? So I can feel that. You know what I mean? Like, just it sucks sometimes when it happens so suddenly. You didn't get to say everything you wanted to say. You know what I mean? Or do everything you wanted to do with him. You know.
Well, I think that, you know, you get to talk to them late at night or on their birthday or when there's a full moon out or you're camping or something. I think that is the best time to say what you gotta say, you know. Even if you're just letting it out into the universe, even if you know, they may or may not hear you, but that's how I said bye to my mom. So,
That maybe that brought you peace.
It does. It brings me peace. I say it all the time. You know, when I'm out there camping and I got a full moon, I'll talk to the moon and I'll say hi to my mom and my grandma. Absolutely. Absolutely. When was the last time you've been camping, my man?
I have never been camping in my life.
What?
I am a black
That's
man.
crazy.
I'm a black man from the city. So here in camping, like, you guys are funny, so I have to pretend to be homeless in the woods now. This is when I had, like, it's ironic now. Well, it's like, this is how it was back then. I'm like, no, I'm okay. And besides, I am terrified of bears, mountain lions, cougars, wolves, coyotes. So, no. I never, ever.
Y'all know, keep my ass out of the...
Yep, keep me in the city with the skyscrapers and all the people that I can clearly see are not carnivorous predators.
I really like the way you put that, being homeless out in the woods.
Yeah, right? It's exactly what it is.
You know, you just took camping and put it on a whole new shelf. It was on a good shelf. It was a great shelf for me. Now next time I'm out there, I'm like, yep, I got my tent, my sleeping bag. Next thing I know, I'm going to be on the side of the woods on the side of the highway begging for change 3 miles out.
It's weird how that ended up, man.
No. Yeah, being homeless was no joke. So you're after that passing, everything was taken care of.
As soon, and because he was a pastor, so he was a pastor out in Fresno, and the church wanted to bury him as well. They not bury him, but they wanted to have the funeral so they could pay their last respects, which was very interesting because they did not treat him with a lot of love and care when he was there. My whole family, me included, and even family back home, had been begging him to give up pastoring that church because church people are some of the most interesting people in the world. The Bible thumpers that just want to throw scripture at you all the time and condemn you to hell the very first time you do something wrong. And I've never met so many people that, because I grew up in that church, and it just seems like God kept around the meanest people for the longest time, and he called the great ones, the nice ones, home early. But I never understood why they would come to church and they wouldn't change. Like, they were dealing with the same problems that when I was a kid, as opposed to when I finally got to leave the church. And then my dad would come back there every so often when people were dying and he'd bury him. But these people just didn't change, and it hurt, and it really started to make me look at, well, is God real? Because you guys, sing the songs, you get caught up in the Holy Ghost, but you're saying the exact same things, you're struggling with the exact same problem, but I never hear any progress.
Kind of reminds me of a bad rehab.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to keep going to the hospital, aren't you supposed to at least get better?
Oh, I've known guys that have been coming to rehab for 30 years. Well, I haven't known them that long, but their stories, I've interviewed guys on these microphones right here that have told me they've been in and out of the place for 30 years. And I go, what has changed from 30 years to now? They've gotten older.
Yeah.
They've gotten older, I'll give them that.
Yeah. Something that I found very interesting, because I never believed that funerals were a celebration of life, because every funeral I've ever gone to, it was very sad and depressing. And so they had the funeral in Fresno at Second Baptist Church, and it didn't feel like a celebration of life. Everyone was really sad and things like that. But one of the great things was my mother's best friend, her childhood friend, that she hadn't seen for years, went to the funeral. And so she got to, be in my mother's corner. So Taylor, my buddy, could be in mine. And when they opened up the casket, this was the first time seeing my dad since he died. And actually, take it back a little further. When we were at the hospital, the doctors brought us in, to let us look at my dad the last time and say what we had to say. And my mother had me lead a prayer over my dad. And so seeing him from there, kind of like freshly dead, and then seeing him after he, what is the word? And they bring you to the morgue to try to...
Embalm.
Embalming, thank you. When they embalmed him, I couldn't really recognize him. And I remember passing out while I was sitting in the front row. And then I didn't want to say anything at the funeral. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to, walk up and take a look at him again, because it just hurt, and I couldn't handle it. And
May I ask how old you were when this happened?
27.
You were 27 years old?
Mm-hmm. 27 years old. That's why I was like, man, if I had just paid attention to the lessons that he was teaching me growing up, because God willing, I still have so many years left on this planet that I could have used more of his wisdom, more of his experience, his knowledge, his spirituality, his answers to questions. Who knows how it would have turned out, but God has me on some sort of journey, because I'm here with you fine people, learning things.
Absolutely. And here you are. Like I said, 3 days in, doing A-okay so far. You seem to be grasping the program so far, though. Pretty good.
Got great people, man, especially you. I came and checked on me, because when I first got here, I had COVID, so I was locked in a room for 5 days, but he came by, gave me all my favorite snacks, favorite drinks, just checked on me, make sure I was okay. It's love that I have not felt since family.
Hey, solid, man.
I appreciate it.
Well, I'd come up and I didn't even know you were here for like 3 or 4 days, and then Louise, who's one of our girls here, she asked me, if I had checked on you, if anybody, and then I said, I don't even know who the heck this Kenneth guy is, and she's like, he's the guy in room 315, the one that the one that's had COVID. I'm like, news to me. I'm like, they don't let me in the loop anymore. I guess I'm locked out. I don't know. And then she told me how you didn't have anything to eat for a couple of days. I guess they forgot about you.
Yeah.
Bad staff, no paycheck. You forgot about my man Kenneth here.
Sure did.
How could you? So I wondered, I go, if he doesn't have any food and he's full right now, on the food that he's eating, he's got to be like thirsty for a soda or hungry for some chips or something. And no joke, I actually went to his room. And I go, you want a soda? You want a candy bar? You want an ice cream? You want chips? What do you want? And he goes, oh man, I could really use, he was like trying to be like really, you were very polite and very coy.
Thank you.
Which was awesome. You're very polite, very kindred spirit person. I picked that up like
Definitely.
moment one, very kindred spirit.
I love it.
Yes, absolutely. You remind me of a co-host that I used to have when I very first started this show. You guys would be besties, I'm telling you.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
And he like named off 1 or 2 things, and I'm like, No, that ain't gonna fly. So I remember I bought him like I think a grocery bag.
You did a whole like Halloween trick or treat. Like I just got done trick or treating that.
Yeah, welcome to the House of HAB. Here you go. Here's some snacks and stuff. And then a couple of days later, you emerged from your slumber, and here you were. And I remember, I think one of the very first questions I think I asked you when you'd gotten out is everybody treating you okay? You getting along all right? And how in your own words, how are you getting along here? How's this experience been for you the past? Because I've never experienced somebody that's only been here for a few days, like this whole surreal thing while it's still fresh in your head.
It's been, yeah, like you said, surreal, but it's one of those too good to be true, but there's no evidence pointing that it's fake. Like it's all been true, because the people that have reached out to me, you guys literally do it consistently every day, checking in, see how I'm doing, letting me talk to you, ask you questions, come to you. And like I said, I haven't felt love like that, first of all, since way back in the day, when like the 90s, when things were good for me and everything was fun, and I had all of my family around and alive. I haven't felt this much love, care, and concern, because I'm not gonna lie, I was waiting for it to kind of drop off after I've been out for a little bit, but you guys are such great energy people. You guys vibrate on such a great frequency that you guys mean what you say, and how this is like a lifelong commitment. Mental change is gonna have to be done. We're really a brotherhood here, and for the most part, actually, not even for the most part, the ones like you and the others who have reached out, you have not stopped. You guys people always tell me if you need anything, including you. You always tell me if you need anything, here's my room number, just ask. And yeah, it's like a dream that I haven't woke up from yet.
Oh yeah, we charge you're gonna get a bill next month in the mail. So. No. Now I know that there's a ritual that has always been done here, at least since I was here and since you were here, Mike. When you were induction, you're now primary. Is that everybody will fist bump you and say what's up and welcome home.
Yes.
That's like a huge ritual here. I want to know if we're still doing it.
Yes, you are. That was the biggest thing for me. It threw me off at first, the welcome home, but when I really let it settle in, I was like, yeah, I'm not on the streets anymore. I have a bed. I get good food.
You're probably wondering what the hell are these freaks telling me? What's up for? What's going on? Who's leaving a Snickers on my pillow? Get away from me.
No, I never once had that, because I knew this was going to be an experience that I've never had before. So I didn't have any preconceived notions. I didn't have any thoughts about it. But I must admit, I did not expect this much love, care, and concern.
Is this your first rehab?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. All right.
This is
Same
my
here.
very first one. Is it really?
Mine as well. All three of us.
Really?
Yes, all three of us are in our first. I've never been to another rehab before this. I went to detox one time about 10 years ago for 2 days, and then I left.
Why'd you leave?
I felt that I had found the meaning of God, and then I went out and used again. So I'd found the meaning of everything, and I knew everything, and I went out, and I think it was like a couple of days later or something, I ended up using again.
The
So
meaning of God.
I found the meaning of I found the route to using again. That was definitely a one-way ticket.
Can't imagine.
Yep.
I'm trying hard to do this the right way, and that's why I don't want to. Once I got out of being in my little cave and all the genuine and the niceness, I really started thinking, because people were giving me little, tidbits here and there, saying what this program could do for you, where you can go if you stick with it. And then seeing it once I got out of the cave, and seeing how people have progressed here, how everyone started just like me, with like same thoughts of doubt.
Absolutely.
And then seeing where they are now, I lost any form of doubt that I had. I figured, okay, this is all real. These people are genuine. These people care. These people have goals, concerns, and they actually want to be better and do better. And I'm like, well, thank God, because I certainly do, and I do not want to go back out on those streets anymore. I don't want to be homeless. miss being what I think we call here a productive member of society.
Yeah, that's the way to put it.
I mean, I took everything for granted, I realized.
Yeah.
I took everything for granted, and I got to really look back at who I was. I did not like what I saw at all. I was arrogant. I was conceited. I was very ungrateful. I thought things were just supposed to be given to me because of who I am. And in looking back on it, I was embarrassed and ashamed of it, truly. And so being here and talking with you and hearing other people explain how their mentality was, I'm like, well, this is amazing. Then I can actually work on my mental and really change, so I never go back to ever believing that I'm entitled to things. I want to work for things. I want to earn my way now. And I still have moments, I'm not going to lie, where I don't feel good enough for it. Like I don't deserve this. But everyone keeps telling me just stay in the groups, which I love, by the way. I love the groups here. I love them. That was a big surprise for me because I didn't think I was. I used to never think I would be the type of person that would be here. But now I look at the world like, man, there's a lot of you people out in the world that should be here to work on everything that you think you're so perfect in, because I was just like that. But once you see how it can all change so fast, that you're blessed to be able to be in a program like this with people like you that don't look down on you for the fact that you're telling your truth. As long as you don't, want to go back to that way, which you guys say, I feel so blessed and comforted to know I can express who I was and who I want to be now.
It's nice to be able to do that and not feel like just completely judged. You know what I mean? Or feeling like people are putting you down for it. You know what I mean?
Amen to that.
Yeah, they listen to you with open arms. You know what I mean? And it's a good feeling.
They do, and it doesn't feel like they're just waiting for their turn to talk.
No.
I've been to places they feel like they're waiting for their turn to talk. They honestly aren't. They're trying to take in anything that they can from other people's experience. It's almost like some sort of the fire gets lit under people's ass. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying it's all sunshine and rainbows and cupcakes and brownies and all that. Yep. But I'm saying that, occasionally, consistently, people are trying to find consistency, trying to find a piece of another person's life to put into their own, to learn from. And with a lot of groups and classes and stuff, you do. I personally didn't. With one class that I got absolutely nothing out of, that's because me and my teacher were at a full-out war. Now, I hope that you don't have this, but it was the longest class that we have. It was 3 days a week, 3 hours for those days. So it's 3, 3, and 3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 hours. You'll find out, I don't think you're going to go through the same experiences that me and another housemate did, but me and this teacher were consistently digging at each other. Okay. And when it came graduation, the basically teacher's pet had gotten like this great presentation and an announcement and everything. And then when the class was over and it was our very last class, she just came, me and this other guy, she just came and just kind of threw the papers on our desk and said, here you guys go. That was it. I will never forget that. I'm not saying that it's a bad experience in teaching, that everybody's going to go through that. I'm just saying that the three of us were in this huge battle royale, and not everybody in the world gets along. So I'm just saying I hope you get more out of that than I did.
Oh, yeah.
I know what class you're talking about, and honestly, that's the one thing that I'm struggling with right now. It's like, I just cannot stand that class worth the damn. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't do it. You know what I mean?
Do you
like,
have the same teacher that I had?
Oh, well.
Does her name start with an H?
Does her hair look very light?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's now colored.
It was blonde when I first was there.
Yeah,
but
it's colored right now.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, it's like, I love the groups here that we have here at the house, man. Like, I'm there at almost all of them, you know what I mean? I'm always participating with the group that my co-host is talking about. Yep, nope, I just cannot stand it, man. Wow. So I feel you, brother. I feel you.
But, I mean, that's the thing about it. I mean, you're gonna have things in this place that you won't prefer. I mean, like I don't prefer journaling, which is what you seem to be interested in.
Yes.
What all have you found at the house that you find interesting and entertaining in your first week, or likes or dislikes in either way?
The only dislike I have is that I can't listen to my music. But other than that, that's the only one. Everything is interesting right now to me because it's still so fresh. But like I said, I love the groups. I love the random talk. I even love our morning meetings that we go to every day because it's the enthusiasm, the energy, and the never-ending support and love that I always see here. Like, it's a little thing that I love the most is just that every time, like, people love giving fist daps, little touches here and there. It's a little thing, but when you're out there and, you know, you're living in the streets and you haven't really showered, or people look at you, they don't want to talk to you, let alone touch you in any kind of way. So being here, and there's always fist bumps and people always asking, how you doing today? Are you good? And stuff like that. I love it. Words can't really describe how much that really uplifts me and keeps me encouraged. I haven't had a bad day yet. I know they're probably going to come, where I'm going to have to come to people like you guys knock on your door and be like, hey, I'm kind of struggling today. But it hasn't happened yet.
And I think that's what in the beginning, well, throughout the whole thing, that's what all the learning and all the textbook and everything is all preparing us for, is that, you know, we are gonna have bad days, but to think about that, like my biggest tool if I'm ever having a bad day is something actually my therapist taught me, is to put my hand on my chest and then breathe in and hold it for 5 seconds, and then let out, and then go, what is this emotion really? Because there's primary and secondary emotions that she, you know, that I've been learning about here, and to figure out what emotion I'm really feeling. As simple as that sounds, I have to actually sit there and think about what am I feeling? I never thought about that shit before, but
yeah, me either, and I'm excited because I want to get to know self. I want to get to know my hang-ups, my bad traits. I want to get to know my good ones, so I can deal with anxiety and stress better. Those are the biggest ones, because when I got here, I had a lot of both, thinking, am I ever going to feel like a normal human being again? Like I'm not lower than the low. Like I'm actually just like you, or just like you. Yes, we breathe oxygen and we bleed, but I didn't feel like a human being. I felt less than. I don't know what word that would be to explain, but
self-loathing.
Is that what it is?
That would be self-loathing when you kind of beat up on yourself a little bit too much.
Have really low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that wasn't me.
Don't you worry about that. They'll fix that right up around here.
I see. I see.
We'll fix that right up. They'll make it so you can't shut up.
I'm glad. I want that. I want to be a vet here. So, like, one thing I'm looking forward to actually is being a mentor to someone, like a newer person that comes in way later, kind of how like you are to me, just so I can let people know that this is actually real. You will change.
That is awesome to hear, by the way. Okay.
No worries. You actually will change the way you think about yourself. You'll change the way you feel about yourself. It'll still come back every now and again, but the fact that there's finally a different thought going through your head, and not just that same negative one over and over and over and over again, was the most uplifting, best feeling thing ever. I love this. I love it, man. I love you guys. I do love this program.
Hey, we love you too, buddy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And probably quickly, we're completely out of time on this. We have to do a part 2. Is it okay if we come and like check back on you?
Oh, yeah, please.
Cool. I want you to be like the poster child for the process. Is that good?
Oh, that's perfectly fine. I love it.
All right, you go. I think that's a good idea.
I think so too.
It's a great idea. Absolutely. All right, my man. You are the new face of like the process through from like day 3 on up. I think that'll be cool. We're gonna have like parts to this. We're gonna have to like call it like like chapters. It's
The
gonna
saga.
be like, yeah, the saga. That's it, the saga of Kenneth. There we go, part 1. All right, my man. All right, guys. That's gonna. We're gonna have to let it go here because I'm barely holding on with my mic. So from Rehab Talk Radio.